What do you think is happening where people are amassing multiple first-round picks in this year's draft, or looked from last year to this year's draft, said, let's get in for another? What do you think's happening, Joe?
I think that what's happening is a chunk of the league is realizing that with a cap going up $25 million a year, the value of draft picks is less. I mean, one of the great values of draft picks is you have inexpensive players for 4, 5, 6 years, depending upon where you drafted them, et cetera. If you can, as we've seen the Rams do, although some of that is mischaracterized, if you can acquire players that are sure things when you have lots of money and lots of more money coming in the future, then the first-round draft pick is a lot less valuable. So the teams with specific needs, or like an Eagles that's positioning themselves in case they need a quarterback, for which they will need lots of draft picks, are cherishing those draft picks. The teams that feel like they're good enough and close to winning, they're going to have the room as the cap grows so quickly to fit in additional players, and the less predictable, less certain quality of the draft picks becomes less valuable. So I think there's a few other factors, but to me that's kind of the headline explanation. We've seen this happening slowly as the jumps in the cap became larger. It slowed down a bit last year when we had the issues with COVID and it affected the economics of the league so much. Now we're looking at 2, 3, 4 years where $25 million increases in the cap is probably somewhat conservative. So you don't have to have those inexpensive draft picks into the same degree you did not too long ago when people needed those draft picks so they could sign the Ramseys of the world. Now they don't need to do that because they're getting a gift that's equivalent to almost the most expensive non-quarterback in football is how much the cap's going up every year.
Joe Banner here on the Rich Eisen Show, longtime NFL executive. Okay, what do you think of the Saints-Eagles trade? Let's take it one at a time here. What do you think the Saints are up to by striking this deal?
It's hard to understand. I mean, they have been a team that is a little more short-term thinking than most, so even with some cap challenges that kind of contradict what I just said, you'd think they'd be appreciating the value of draft picks. What they really did is just moved a pick forward. So a pick that they should have had in 23, they moved it to 22. Now, I think they paid a steep price for that. But if we really want to simplify what happened, instead of having one pick in 22 and one pick in 23, the Saints are going to have 2 picks in 22 and no picks in 23 in the first round. So you'd think that they were targeting somebody, but I don't know how 3 weeks before the draft, in the middle of the first round, you'd know enough about who's going to be there. Of course, the other possibility is they're planning on using those picks to trade up for somebody. But I'm in the school of not thinking there's a good enough quarterback in this draft that's warranted. So I'm not sure what the Saints are doing. I did not think they did a great job on this trade, even if we're just talking about the negotiation and I want to make this deal, but what's the cheapest price I can pay and still get it? I think they were overly aggressive.
So what don't you like? What do you think how they maybe got had in a way here, Joe?
Well, this is what happened. I mean, the Eagles basically moved back, from 19 to 18.
Mm-hmm.
And then they traded the 16th pick. And what they got for the 16th pick is a 3 this year, a 1 next year, and a 2 the year after. So to me, that seems like a huge price to pay for the 16th pick in the draft. And we've seen teams, pay that to move from 10 to 3 or whatever. We've seen teams acquire some superstar players for that kind of compensation. I mean, Ramsey and Tunsil were 2 1s. You could argue that a 1, a 2, and a 3 is almost as much as you're paying for a Tunsil and Ramsey, and you're getting the 16th pick, and you're not even sure who's going to be there. So for me to have paid that much with that uncertainty for a pick at that range in the draft seems like a very, very good deal for the Eagles, for which they should be applauded, and they consistently make strong trades. And for me, kind of a question mark on what's the Saints' next step, or they really give up a 1, 2, and a 3 just to move a draft pick from 23 into 22.
Well, what don't you think? I would think that there has to be. I shouldn't say it so certainty, but you'd think that there's another move here, that they've already spoken to somebody, maybe top 5, top 10, saying we want to get up there, and whatever they just coughed up to the Eagles for this first rounder is the cost of doing business to get where they wanted to go for the player that they've already identified. What do you think?
Yeah, that's certainly possible, and it would make more sense if that's the case, but at least from my few phone calls, and nobody in the media is reporting, for example, did they call the Giants, who have 2 picks in the top 10? Because I'd be surprised if they couldn't get one of those picks for this big a package. If I'm sitting at 9 and you say to me you get a 1 and a 2 and a 3, and you still have that top 5 pick, and that's all it's going to cost you. You get a 1, 2, and a 3, and you get people that took over in Giants, and I give them credit because they're not trying to kind of win the off season in their first year. Why wouldn't they do that? So that's why I said I don't know if the value is there, even if that's the strategy. You'd think they'd go to the teams with the top 10 picks first and say, listen, can I just make one move here and actually trade my 18 this year and my 1 next year? I'm trading 2 1s. That's really what they did, and I'm getting back for it a higher pick than 16. To me, that's the mystery. At 16, I don't care who you are. You don't know who's going to be there. Unless you get some real sleeper, you're absolutely positive, and then why are you trading all this to get up if he's a true sleeper? So it's totally plausible to me that you're right, and they have 2 picks now. They can move up if they want to, but if that's what they're doing, I would have gone to the teams that have 2 picks, at least one of which is higher than that. And maybe they did, but the few calls I've made to people and just watching the media, no one has put anything out like that. So I'm feeling like they probably didn't actually do that.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.